Welcome back, everybody. So today we are going to be reviewing and installing front coilovers for 68 to 82 C3 Corvette. So I bought a set of bolt-in, kind of like a factory replacement coilover. I got it through Summit Racing, but QA1 makes it. I'm a big fan of QA1 products. I do have QA1 coilovers on my C4 Corvette. And that they have a bolt-on setup for this car I thought was pretty cool, so I figured I'm going to try that. I did want to lower it a little bit more. The wheel well gap in it is a little too much for my taste, so I wanted to see what kind of range. So they say it's like 1 to 2 inches to lower the car. So I'm going to see if that's going to be true and if it's going to get me where I want to go with it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at everything, see what comes in the kit, and we're going to start putting them on the car. All right, so here we go. So 2 springs. And 2 shocks. So inside here, we'll look at these first. And that's what that looks like there, which is nice. It does come with a T-bar already on here. I remember when I did my C4, I had to buy all this stuff separately. So it pretty much comes in and replaces just like your shock. Now this will actually mount on the inside of your control arm, not from underneath like your old one will. And then it comes with all the hardware, the top mount for this part, like a shock goes, and then your collars to adjust up and down on here to set your ride height. These are 18-way adjustable, so which is pretty cool. Another thing is too is that you can get these in 3 different spring rates. There's 450, 550, and 650. What calls for the big block is the 650 spring rate spring. This car is a little bit lighter, so it has the 5x2 in it, and it has aluminum heads. It doesn't have all the original pulleys and original AC compressor, and so there's a lot of weight that actually came off the front end. So I ended up going with a 550 rate spring here. So we're gonna just get ahead and start taking that old stuff off and get these set up and go back together with it. All right, so I'm gonna take a quick before measurement from the ground to the fender here. I'm gonna use the center line of the wheel as like a good reference point. So it's roughly 27 inches. So there's about like 2 inches in here that I'm gonna try to get rid of. I'm not gonna go like super low with the car, but I definitely wanna get it down low enough to kind of eliminate this gap up in here, but I still want to be able to drive it, so I'm not going to get too crazy. I don't want to worry about rubbing or, you know, when the wheels turn, hitting a bump and cracking the fender or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and start taking this stuff off and go from there. All right, first thing we're going to do is just pull the shock out. So back there is the stud of the shock, and it's got a 9/16 nut on it. And you usually can take a little 1/4 inch open end wrench, put it on the top, and then spin that nut off, because that shaft will usually spin. So once you take that off, we're gonna go underneath here, and you'll see those 2 1/2 inch bolts holding that in, and that'll pull right out. And then we'll disconnect the ball joint, and then pull the spring out. And there you go, there's the old shock. Okay, now I unbolted the sway bar here, and then I'm gonna release the spring tension and unbolt or unhook one of the ball joints here to get the spring out. So you always have to remember just to jack up the lower control arm if you've never done this before. Obviously there's a lot of pressure on that spring, and there's a couple ways to do this. I know some people are intimidated, but you can either use a pickle fork to separate the ball joint from the knuckle itself, mainly from the bottom typically, and lower the whole control arm down and pull the spring out. Luckily this car has bolt-in ball joints, and I don't really want to damage any of the boots or smack anything. You can sometimes smack the knuckle with a hammer and it'll just release from the ball joint like that. So I'm just gonna be kind of gentle here and unbolt one of the ball joints and just kind of lower it down and pull the spring out. All right, I got the ball joint unbolted here, as you can see, and now you can get to the spring. Definitely keep some tension if you do go this route here by doing the upper ball joint. Yes, I know it's not a traditional way of doing this. Everybody typically unbolts the lower ball joint here. The only reason I like doing this, A, is easy to unbolt the ball joints from the top. Also, when you can get in here with the coilover, any kind of adjustments or anything, everything's right here. You don't have to worry about the rotor and the knuckle hanging up in your way here when you're trying to work on it from underneath of it. So this kind of works out well here. Like I said, I know it's not like the industry standard, but it works. Just make sure that you keep tension off of your brake line there. I just keep the jack on it, jacked up a little bit so it doesn't pull off that or damage it or anything like that. So we're gonna get this out of here, clean that up real quick, and start going back together on this side. All right, now with the spring and the shock out of there, it's kind of a good time to check your suspension travel and tire clearance depending on how low you're going. So depending on your wheel and tire package here, these are 10-inch wide rims. It's got like a 255 tire on there, which is slightly stretched, but not much. I don't know if I'm gonna go this low, but it's a good time to kind of like jack the suspension up and make sure there's clearance in the wheel well, so if you do hit like a big bump or anything like that, you're not going to hit or crack or rub or anything like that. So it's just something I normally do when I'm lowering the car. I kind of just take a look to see what kind of play I have in the wheel there. So it actually looks pretty cool that low. I don't think I'm going to go that low, but it definitely has some clearance in there, which is nice. All right, so I have everything laid out here. I just want to show you in order which everything goes. So up top is like a basic shock setup here, washer, rubber bushings, other washer, nut that goes on the top there. So at the bottom here, there is your spring collar, and then there's like a thrust washer here. And you're gonna wanna use Permatex or anti-seize, any type of anti-seize around here, because that's where the spring sits on. And then here is your other lock ring that goes underneath here. So what we're gonna do is put anti-seize at the bottom of the threads here. I'm gonna run these all the way down here, and that's where I'm gonna start off with. And then I'm just gonna adjust it up higher if I need to go higher there. But make sure you use plenty of anti-seize in here, just to prevent any of the gulling or the things just getting stuck on there through time out in the weather. The other thing too, what I mentioned is that this goes on the inside of the control arm here, where normally there's the two bolts that go up like this, and this goes underneath the control arm. They give you these two bolts here that you're gonna bolt this in. So you're gonna have to actually drill through the nut in the control arm, if you still have them there, to make room for these. So I drilled mine out already, so now I can get ahead in back with this and run these bolts down there. So we're gonna get ahead and anti-seize, run these down, and put it back in the car. All right, so I have my holes drilled out here. So I'm gonna get ahead and put the coilover up in here and start mounting it up. Gonna take a quick peek in here with this installed. Actually looks pretty nice. You can see it's kind of tucked up in there nicely. And you can get your adjustment tools off to one side here when you need to make your adjustments if you want to go up or down. And you can reach the adjustment setting on the shock too. Fairly easy, if you can see that well. But it sits in there nice. So we're gonna go ahead and start the other side. All right, second one's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw the wheels on this, get it on the ground, and take a look at it. All right, so I got the car on the ground now. You can see it is definitely sitting lower there. I did just measure it, and it's around 26 inches, so it did lower it about an inch. Now, this car did have lowering suspension on it from before, so the inch is actually pretty good considering that it was already lowered. So go ahead and take a look at the other side. So I'm sure it'll probably settle just a little bit. I did not drive the car yet. I just kind of got it down and rolled it back and forth a couple times just for the wheels to kind of straighten out a little bit. But it sits in there pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. All right, so that'll wrap it up for today's video. So just in 3 categories here to break everything down. Product, the price of it, and how easy was it to install. So the product, in my opinion, is actually really good product. It's nice to be able to buy something, bolt it up, and be done with it. Sometimes if you do all custom stuff like I did with my C4, it takes forever to do, to dial in, you're sending it back in another part. So the quality of the product, QON makes great stuff. I'm really happy with their stuff. So far, all my cars that I've been getting the stuff with, it's been really good. It holds up, made in the USA, which is a good thing. And the other thing would be the price. So you're looking at $583 with free shipping if you buy it from one of the big suppliers like Jags or Summit or one of those companies like that. Really not bad if you think about it. So $583, you're getting springs, you're getting the shocks and all the hardware and everything for it. So in my opinion, yes, it's totally worth the price, not bad at all. And the next thing and last thing would be installation. How hard of a project is it to do? Then again, in my opinion, I think it's super easy to do. I think a couple hours on a Saturday or on a weekend or in the evening takes no time to do. Unbolt the old stuff as long as nothing's all rusted up and you gotta cut anything out of there, which is probably common, but if not, then putting it on is a cinch. It takes no time. Like I said in the video, you saw it, not really hard to do. Adjusting it and setting up ride height and all that kind of stuff like that, that's a whole other video on doing that. But as far as like putting them together, bolting them in, putting them in the car, simple, easy to do. So if you enjoyed the video, press like, subscribe, and thanks again.